How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Gangi. Welcome to another episode of Tier Talk. Guys, great discussion today. We're going to talk about the art of saying no, specifically saying no to an inmate. I mean, basically, it's really the art of giving out directives that aren't so popular. Again, this isn't a popularity contest. We're looking to be respected, not be popular. So having said that, this is a great dialogue. Joe is going to be on, Lieutenant Joe Pomponio, and we're going to be discussing the art of saying no, or the art of giving out directives that aren't seen as favorable to the inmate population, if you will. Okay, guys, so this show is sponsored by three entities. We have American Military University. If you guys are looking to get that degree, seek higher education, bring some experience into the classroom, please check out American Military University. They're very supportive of what we do in corrections, very supportive of what we do here on Tier Talk. And we also have Guardian RFID, from inmate tracking and cell checks to cloud-based business and artificial intelligence. Guardian RFID digitally transforms jails, prisons, and juvenile detention facilities of every size. Visit guardianrfid.com for more information. And guys, they also have content up there that we put. So if you guys are looking for some more tips, please check out their YouTube channel. And we also have my book, Inmate Manipulation Decoded, is on the market. You can get that. A link to that is in the description. It's on Amazon. And we also have Lessons Learned While Working in Prison, my journey from officer to administration. If you're ready to take your career up a notch, this book can definitely help you reach your greatest potential. And be advised, guys, we're currently working on videos to run parallel, if you will, with that book. It's a lot of work because we're going to have to come up with 150 something videos, but we're doing it on the side. Those videos will not be available on YouTube. Those videos are going to be connected to a training curriculum. So if you guys are interested in those videos, email me at gangianthony@yahoo.com. That's gangianthony@yahoo.com. And I'll tell you how you can go about and get those videos and the cost for the videos. I'm going to be doing it with a partner, and it's going to be pretty good because not only are we going to be chatting, but I'm going to bring in certain experts from all over the corrections profession to break down some of the passages, especially if the passages falls outside of my area of expertise or my person I'm partnered up with. So I think it's going to be interesting and really looking forward to do it. We're actually going to be recording the first video this week. So we're going to try to do 2 a week. So it's going to take quite some time, but I think this will be a great way to supplement the book. All right, so let's get Joe on. What's up, Joe?
What's happening, Anthony?
Joe, how's everything, brother? You mind introducing yourself to our audience?
Yes, sir. My name is Joe Pomponio. I'm a retired lieutenant from the Texas Department of Corrections. 29 years, 6 months, and 18 days. Retired as a lieutenant last August, and since then been helping Anthony out on his panels here and bringing up great discussions and great topics, man, to reach out and to get to everybody.
Yes, and I think this is a very good topic to kind of explore a little bit because we did do a short on this, and it got over 1,000 views. So I want to just explore. So we have 3 tips, and we'll run them by real quick. These 3 tips will help you say no, or just in general, give out a directive that may not be seen as favorable to the inmate population. Now, first thing right off the bat, and I'll have Joe explain this one at first, then I'll compliment, is you must believe in the order or directive you are providing. Now, real quick, Joe, I hate it when, let's say I was a sergeant and I told an officer that they had to provide this directive, and when the inmate questioned the directive, the officer was quick to say, well, that's what the sergeant told me to do. It's an ethical directive, something that I needed to get done, given that I'm empowering the officer to get it done. And then when the officer went to give out this directive that wasn't received so favorably by the inmate, the officer was quick to say, well, that's what the sergeant wants. What's your thought when you have a directive that may not be seen as favorable, you have to deliver that no, and the justification isn't internal. It's not because you said it. It's more external. Well, it's not that I want it done. It's more that the sergeant or lieutenant told me to get it done.
Yeah, I've run across that many a times. The first thing right off the bat is no matter whether you believe in the directive or not, always give the directive like it came from you. Never be really quick to pass anything off on anybody else, because later on down the line you're going to wind up losing your authority And, every time they question you about something, they're automatically going to know that, you don't have the authority to do it because you've passed it off to another supervisor or blamed it on another supervisor instead of just it coming from you. Quick example, being in the day room and, uh, you know, uh, most offenders, you're allowed to bring just enough for you to eat in the day room, but you see them spread and you tell them to put it up. And, it's a day room rule. It's a policy, but it's not because it's a policy or a directive. It's because my sergeant said so or my lieutenant said so. Never be afraid to speak up because it's what the policy dictates, and that's what you're going to do. Be confident in your answer and be confident in your authority level. I
The
think you're
big
muted.
Got it. The biggest concern I had, yeah, that was a good one. The biggest concern I had is when I look to empower my front line and we give them the ability to carry out an order or carry out a directive. When they go ahead and deliver that directive and then the inmate tends to question it, I'm always, listening to see how that officer is then going to justify that directive. Are they going to take onus of that directive and push the order as if they own that order, or are they going to go ahead and deflect that to somewhere else? And guys, by the way, the inmates are looking to see how you justify that directive or that no that you have to provide. They want to know, is that directive coming from you? Do you believe in it? Or is that directive coming from somewhere else? And if it's coming from somewhere else, guys, they know right off the bat that may give them a window to open up and manipulate themselves out of that directive. So if the sergeant wanted it today, well, guess what, Gange? That sergeant isn't here tomorrow. So we'll just go ahead and, eat in the public area and share our stuff because that sergeant won't be here. So what have you done to literally have that directive set by you? That's the key. So when I tell you not to eat in the public area, even if the sergeant reminded me of it, I'm the one that's telling you it. So it doesn't matter if the sergeant's here tomorrow or not. I'm the one that's telling you to do it. So again, when you push it out to external circumstances or external individuals, you don't have control of that. So when the inmate comes up and decides, well, hey, sergeant's not here today, can I go ahead and do it? What's your excuse then? That's why you need to nip it in the bud and take onus of those less favorable directives. And again, it being a no or just telling them something that they can't do, going to another cell, playing their music without the headphones on.
A good thing I used to like to do as a supervisor too, when I run across an officer that I kind of knew might be hesitant in giving that order. When I would tell them, to go tell those offenders sit down in the day room or whatever the case was. Once I see the officer approach the offender population in the day room or whatever, I would just kind of step out there in public view where they can all see me for two reasons. Number one, because the offenders can see where the order was actually coming from, and number two, I wanted the officer to know that I have their back in giving that order.
Yeah.
That was one of the things that I used to do to practice, and in time I found that that kind of built up confidence and empowered the staff and gave them the confidence level to go issue that order you know without having to pass it off on somebody else.
Yeah, and eventually you could back away from that, So I
Exactly.
mean, that's a great tool to use for rookies or newbies who are trying to earn their confidence. And it's like, you know what? Go ahead, take onus of that directive I just gave you. But in the distance, I got your back. 100% I got your back. But eventually,
Absolutely.
what's going to happen is you're going to step away, and they're going to be on their own. Like for a senior officer, I would just maybe watch from a distance because I'm still curious to see how they deliver the directive, but I may not want to have the inmates see me. I just may be in view where the officer may know I'm there, but I may not want the inmates to see me only because I want the officer to have that reflection of authority. Because again, I don't want the inmates thinking that I'm only doing this because my lieutenant is behind me. I want the inmates knowing that I'm doing this because it's within my job to do that. But having said that, like you mentioned at the beginning of your career, it makes sense to some extent because when you're new, you're really going by policy and procedure, probably running the unit with your pen because again, you're setting that tolerance. And these inmates may not be used to that because they may be used to officers who run the unit a little bit differently. So when you go to push the rules, they're going to question a lot of things that you're doing because, again, they're used to a little bit more of a lax setting or not always going right to the pen. So it's good that there could be some support in the distance, at least to set the momentum going. And then eventually you can go back and do what you got to do. And that officer's got enough to kind of keep the momentum going. Because, again, the first thing that's going to be challenged by an inmate is the officer's ability to say no, or the officer's ability to give that unfavorable directive. So yeah, I get it. I think at the very beginning it helps show support because the inmates. Here's another thing: when you're first starting your career out, and you're doing that, you're testing the waters, you're writing everything up because you got to kind of set that level high. The inmates are definitely going to be looking to circumvent you, 100%. Because again, they're used to maybe things being a little bit more lax, but again, you're setting the boundaries. So you're going zero tolerance. So again, as they try to circumvent you, and you're pushing policies and procedures, but eventually you'll get discretion. But right now you're pushing policies and procedures. It's good to be in the background, support that. So the inmates know that circumventing hits a wall.
Exactly.
They know it hits a wall. But having said that, there is a time to stop doing that as well. Because, again, it's great at first to get that momentum, to empower and give that person that level of authority. But eventually you do have to step away, but maybe not day one, day two, but eventually it's like, hey, I gave you these orders. I see that you're carrying them out well. I see that the inmates are moving where they need to be. So it's time for you to run this bad boy on your own. Would you agree? I mean, you agree with that? You agree with that, Joe?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's always a point where you got to step away because if you don't, then you never, you not only have you've empowered them, but you've also taken away their authority if you continue to overshadow them. You got to step away at some point and let them build their own confidence level to do it. And other times there's been times where I stepped into the day room area and I didn't say anything to the officer. I just go straight into the day room area. Hey, why the hell are you not minding my boss? You guys are running around here with no damn t-shirts on, got your shit strewn everywhere. Really, you're just going to disrespect my boss like that? And they know, oh shit. And then the light bulb comes on with the boss. Oh hell, maybe I need to dig into this a little deeper and assert myself a little bit more.
Yes. I like that. I do like that style. The only thing is, so again, this is great that we're having this dialogue. Is if I saw the unit in a bit of disarray, it depends on where that officer is in their career. New boot is going to be treated a little bit differently. I may go back to new boot and say, let me talk to you privately. Always done in private. Always done in private. Hey, listen, right now, I want you to notice these inmates are doing this, this, and this. They know they're not supposed to be doing this, but you're like a substitute teacher right now. So if I were you, I would go back and start regulating these areas of concern to start setting the right tempo. Now, if it was a senior officer, I would do one tour. If I saw a bunch of stuff that was sloppy, I would step out. Hey, officer such and such, or hey, boss such and such, come here for a second. Let's talk over here for a second. And then I'm going to chew him a little bit.
Right.
I'm going to chew him a little bit because you're my senior officer and you're being walked on. And to be honest with you, I'm spending my time right now. I get it. Working with those rookies, reinforcing their level of authority until they're able to step up on their own. So I'm going to help them build their confidence. But for a senior officer, you need to have that already. If you're on the job for quite some time and your unit looks like shit, I'm going to talk to you privately and say, yo, you got to step up. 100%, you have to step up and start taking onus to that level of authority. And that kind of brings us into the next thing. You are not looking to be popular. You are looking to be respected. What's your thoughts on that, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, especially when you come in as a new correctional officer, the first thing you want to do is assert yourself, assert your authority. You're definitely not there for the popular vote. You're not there to be liked amongst the offender population. You're there to do a job. You're there to enforce rules and regulations. You're there to enforce safety, security, and sanitation of whatever area you're working. So being if you're there and you're trying to be popular, it's the wrong approach. Definitely wrong approach. You're looking for respect amongst your peers. You're looking for respect from the offender population. Being able to enforce firm, fair consistency, and keeping things running smooth. Keeping things safe. That's your primary job function there: security and safety.
Yeah, and guys, I love what Joe is saying because think about this too. if you're looking to be popular, then the inmates have control. That's 100%, because 9 times out of 10, the directives that you have to provide, the no's that you're going to be given, are usually not going to be seen as favorable to the inmate. So in your request to be popular and your request to be superficially liked, the inmates are going to have control 100%. They could play guilt. I hate when they used to say, well, don't be like everyone else. Well, why would I not want to be like those other officers? They're doing their job. Why do I want to be different?
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're not there. You're not even really there to be popular amongst your staff and your coworkers.
Yeah.
Popularity comes from respect, and respect is gained by doing your job and being good at what you do.
And to be honest with you guys, it is the truth. I mean, at any time when you're seeking to do what's more favorable towards the inmates, and by the way, when I say more favorable, it's more of their wants as opposed to their needs. They run the day. I mean, I've seen people get so blinded by wanting to be popular, wanting to be liked, that they start to slowly move back from doing the job. Because, to be honest with you, as I said, 9 times out of 10, the things we do, they're not going to like. That's why we have that method: ask, tell, make. I mean, that goes to show you right off the bat. Hey, we'll be cordial at first, but then I'm going to tell you. Then I have it in my authority to make you. That means, because most of the time I know I'm going to be giving you directives that you do not like. So with that said, looking to be popular, pretty much you might as well just give the keys and everything else that belongs to you to run the unit. Might as well give it over to the inmate. Because at the end of the day, if you're looking to be popular, they're going to run the unit. And guys, that's something that you should really listen in on, because that, to me, being popular, being liked, I mean, even on just in general, we all want to be liked. We don't want to give out answers that people don't find favorable, or directives that people find that don't find favorable. We don't want to give that stuff out. We want to be liked. But in this profession, it's not about being liked. It's about doing the job, doing what's expected of you. And again, it's not about being popular. It's about being respected. And I respect. And I do agree with Joe. Depends on how you see popularity. But if you're respected by the inmate population, you'll be known by the inmate population as someone that does their job and someone that is consistent with the carrying out of the rules. But if you're looking to be popular, you're not going to be respected, because you're going to be inconsistent. And to be honest with you, looking to be popular, you're not going to have any ground to stand on, because that changes with every inmate you deal with. That's subjective depending on the inmate you're dealing with. So the best way to be consistent is kind of stick to the needs of the inmates. And when it comes to the wants, that's something that, sometimes it can be negotiated. Don't get me wrong. But in the meantime, it's the needs. It's the needs. And when you go to enforce those needs, you're not always going to be popular. But I'll guarantee you'll be respected 100%. So look to meet the needs of the inmates and not their wants. And again, that to me was a good piece of advice that was sent my way. And the last one, this is a unique one. So again, when you deliver unfavorable directives, or the no that the inmates are not going to like, this is really for management, actually, because I think that if you tell the officer to believe in what they have to do, if you don't look to be popular, you look to be respected. I think those are pretty good generalities that you can hold on to go ahead and reinforce what it is that you have to reinforce. This comes from above. Resources are needed to support needed directives that could lead to non-compliance. So what do I mean by that? So when we know that we have to give out an order that's not going to be so favorable, the first thing I used to look at is, what's going to be my safety when I have to do this? Because I'm definitely going to get it done. But it's about timing. Now, I remember there was an incident where there was inmates smoking, and it was third shift. I hardly had any backup, and lieutenant's like, yeah, you got to go over to that group of inmates in this open dorm and tell them that they can't smoke and start collecting those cigarettes. And I'm like, ooh. Like, normally I wouldn't mind doing that. That's my job. But I also have to think, I have nobody here, no backup, no nothing. And this is going to be something that may fall into the ask, tell, make model. I can ask them. I could tell them. But the resources I have are going to stop me from probably making them. So I think what helps us out is when we have the resources in play to deliver those unfavorable directives, to deliver the no's, and that comes from above. So you can't expect your front line to be confident in giving those no's and directives if they don't feel that there's backing. Because at that point there, I mean, again, it's survival mode. I mean, some officers, don't get me wrong, they're going to do it regardless, and bravo. But sometimes, to be honest with you, it is about timing too. Like if I was a supervisor, right, and let's say I was running low, I had nobody there to respond to a backup code. I have nobody ready. And I saw that maybe there was an officer chasing after those cigarettes at that exact moment, to a group of inmates that could all be gangs, whatever it is. I mean, I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to take the initiative, but I may go back and say, dude, your timing on this may be all wrong right now because I don't have the resources to back you up. So I'm not telling you that we're going to allow them, because we could always get them when we're ready. It doesn't have to be today. It doesn't have to be today. I would save those initiatives for emergency cases. Like if I don't stop them from smoking, what could happen? Oh, is that big of a deal? I don't know. But if they're jumping an inmate, then you got to do what you got to do. If they're jumping one of us, then you got to do what you got to do. Then I get that. But you also have to weigh in, what's the consequences if I don't act or if I do act? And I've seen people say, Gangi, I wanted to do something, but I didn't feel I was backed up. So at that point here, I documented everything. I reported what I saw, but I also reported my inaction based on these reasons. Okay, then what am I supposed to do? At that point there, if you don't have the resources, I can't give you the resources. It takes a lot of courage to get to that make part of a directive. But if I can't back you up, then to be honest with you, I may be very weary of allowing you to go ahead and do that make. Again, I like to document, and then we'll get them maybe on first shift when there's more people. But this is where it could be a little controversial, because some people may say, well, you got to go for it. Yeah, I get you got to go for it. But if we lose control of something, and then it's like, what were you chasing after? Oh, well, we just had a riot, and 2 officers were taken hostage. And well, how did it all start? Well, the inmate wasn't supposed to be smoking a cigarette, and I took the cigarette out of his mouth. And yeah, but I had no backup today. Don't get me wrong. So, I wish we had more people on the job. I wish we had more incentive, but right now we're very limited. So we have to be strategic in how we approach these, what could be a negative interaction. And I know some people may say, well, you got to go over, it's enforcing rules. Yeah, it is, but you also have to be very strategic in how you do that, because in the effort to enforce it, you could be putting yourself at risk, putting the facility at risk. I've seen people that blindly chase after contraband because they're so focused on the outcome. I got to get the contraband. It's like, yeah, but did you actually do any type of due diligence and maybe letting me know? And okay, can I get something in the wings just in case this goes wrong or whatever it is? Don't be so blind by the contraband that you're willing to put everything at risk for, at the end, what could be something superficial. And now at the end of the day, I can't back you. Now, is that controversial? It could be, because some people are going to want to chase after it. But what's your thoughts on that, Joe? Because there's a lot there.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, you got both styles of employees. You got the ones that they're contraband driven, which is a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing if you got the staff to cover it. Bad thing if you don't, because in the grand scheme of things, no matter what position you hold in a correctional facility, whether it be an officer, sergeant, lieutenant, captain, whatever. We've all worked night shift. We all know how short we can get sometimes on night shift, and we know what our staffing numbers look like at night normally. Picking and choosing your battles are with the concept of keeping the safety of your officers in mind is definitely beneficial. You don't want anybody to get hurt over a cigarette. You really can't. I mean, you can justify it, but you can't justify it. You can't justify getting your staff hurt over one cigarette when you got 3 of your 9 bosses that got hurt in that incident, and now you're 3 more people short because those bosses got hurt and can't continue their duties. And like I tell my staff, by all means, call me on the phone or call me on the radio. Let me know what you got. There's always more than one way to skin a cat. Especially smoking. I used to have my sergeant sneak a video camera down there and have the officer place it strategically where they can't, the offender population couldn't be seen, but they can be seen on the camera smoking. That following day, we would just go ahead and write the disciplinary based on visual observations and visual identifications from the camera. And while they're doing minor court, we're searching their property. We got the rest of their tobacco stash, and they got in-house disciplinary charges, and they get smacked upside the head with disciplinary sanctions. We've accomplished the same goal, and everybody still went home safe. You never want to start something that you don't have the resources to finish. Especially as a supervisor, you have to keep that in mind. It's not about you; it's about your staff, and you need to make your staff understand that there's a time and place where we need to pick and choose our battles. If it's as innocent, not well, I say innocent, but if it's as small as just them smoking a cigarette, we may not get them today, but we'll get them. Don't get yourself hurt over impulse. For something that you traded safety for. It's definitely not worth it. And as a supervisor, that's why it's so important that we get out and walk around and do our thing, and walk around to hit the post and do some looking around, because we need to make our presence known, intermittently. And, at the same time, let the staff know that, hey, if something happens, this is what we're going to do.
I've
Because
also
we've all had those nights where you had a 911 ambulance going out with a sick convict on it, and two of your bosses are on that ambulance, so you're already two in the hole, and it never fails. You got that one employee that's contraband driven. You're already short, and then the word comes out over the radio that you got a little miniature disturbance going on a dorm or on a pod somewhere because you went in there without playing a what if game. And I can't stress that enough. Everybody needs to play the what if game. What if I go in there and snatch a cigarette out of that convict's mouth and we're 7 people short? How's that going to affect my people? How's that going to affect my shift? How's that going to affect my coworkers? And the supervisors need to play that same game. If I go in there raising hell, and this kicks off, do I have the resources to contain it? How am I going to justify to my upper administration I got 3 of my bosses hurt because I had an impulse moment? A lot of the what if game and stuff needs to be played.
I've seen that. I said, I agree with you, Joe. You got to weigh in the consequences of the inaction. I've seen shit go down, and people are like, "Well, how did it start?" Well, it started because he went after a cigarette. And what's funny? If you go back as we look at the dialogue we had, if you are consistent and you're looking to be respected, not all the time, but sometimes inmates won't do it in front of you anyway. You may turn around, and you may be like, "Oh shit, I didn't know it was you today." And then, and they may just throw away the cigarette. And it's like, okay, well, at least you gave me that respect and you keep it moving. But again, it is really about the timing and the potential consequences. There are going to be certain things that, you're going to have to take the risk because there's a greater risk tied if you don't. But it's what you connect to the inaction. And again, I also want to mention something too. The resources matter too, because let's say you do go to this directive and you don't have enough resources to back you up. And let's say it's something superficial and shit goes sideways. Well, the problem is your confidence that next time is not going to be there. That's why it's good for us to have the resources in play and be strategic with it, because when you're ready and you can do something, you could see where that level of control is going to be, because we have it now. But when you don't, the problem is you being effective in doing it the next time, you're going to be hesitant. Even if you may not think so, you're going to be hesitant because last time what happened? Things went south and backup never came. I mean, for me, it was easier for me to say no and give out the directives when I knew somewhere along the line someone had my back if something went sour, if something went wrong. A lot harder for me to do it when I was in question of, well, how many people do we have here today? Ooh, I don't know if I want to sweat that at this point right now. But again, just to make sure we define this, it really depends on the consequence of the inaction. The consequence of the inaction. If a guy smoking, whether you take away their cigarette or not, what's the and guys, not the probability, I'm sorry, not the likelihood, but the probability. Sure, there could be a likelihood that this could happen. Okay, I get it. What's the probability? Because someone say, well, they're smoking and that can cause a fire in the unit. Yeah, likely. But what's the probability? That's another reason when it comes to making the decision of if you have to make a decision of inaction, because believe it or not, inaction is still a decision. It's an intentional decision. Hopefully it's weighed on the fact that if I do this, that's going to make matters worse. Here I am trying to get a cigarette, and now we just turned it into a riot, and everybody's out on a trip right now. Try explaining that, because that to me is common sense. And people may want to say, well, I had to go for it because cigarettes are against policy and procedure. Yeah, but they're strategic about it. You could have got them the next day. You could have planned something a little bit better. And that's why, again, sometimes we call that supervisor and then we ask the supervisor, hey, what do you want me to do right now? I caught it. Should I wait? Or, yeah, we can get them tomorrow. I got some cameras up. We'll get them on the visual, and they'll be surprised with some charges tomorrow. It'll be more controlled. They get called down one by one. And I don't feel comfortable, actually, if I sent you down that dorm, ripping out cigarettes from a group of 5 people, because right now it's only me and you here today. So,
Right.
May not be a good move. Hey, what's your any thoughts you got to say in closing, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, just the main thing, with correctional officers, be confident in your abilities. Even at the start, confidence, the way you carry yourself mean a lot. Emulate some of your better officers, and definitely seek the guidance of your security supervisors. We're definitely not there to let you fail. We're not going to let you fail. That's definitely not our game plan. Be confident in the word no. I mean, we said it in a former episode. I used to tell my cadets when I taught training, if you can't say no, you just write it on your hand. I used to keep it on a cue card that used to stick up above my pocket. So, you'd see Lieutenant Pomponio and the word no as I come down the hallway, and they knew right off the bat I wasn't the one. Get your feet underneath you, build your confidence, and don't look to be popular, look to be respected. Because respect comes with popularity, even if people don't like the way you do it. At some point they say, he may be an ass, but damn, his area is always tight and right. Never have any operational issues when he's on that wing. Respect comes in many forms. Popularity is meant for high school. It's not meant for the correctional facility. You're not there to be popular, so don't try to be. And then lastly, definitely pick and choose your battles. It doesn't matter what level of professional you are, whether you're frontline, supervisory. Always keep in your mind, especially when you're short, man, is the risk going to be worth it? Like Anthony said, if it's something operationally, that's gonna jeopardize security and safety of the institution, then yeah, we got to act. No ands, ifs, or buts. But learn to pick and choose your battles. Don't be an impulse person, because impulses will definitely get you hurt. Other than that, you guys stay safe, fight the fight, and we're always behind you 100%.
Yeah, and guys, in closing on my end, guys, as you say that the title of this episode was "The Art of Saying No," because it's not that always that easy, and we kind of explained how to build confidence in doing that, what you need to seek, again, not popularity but respect, and then also what management can do to support those unfavorable directives, if you will. But at the end, guys, this is just an effort for you to reinforce that level of needed authority, because at any point when it's questioned, you can't go to external sources for that justification of why you do what you do. Because when they're questioning your directive, they're questioning your ability to carry it out. That's what they're doing. And you don't want to give that to somebody else or some situational concern. You want to, it's from me. Let you know the directive I just gave you is from me, because at the end of the day, when they go to when they ask you for justification, if you feel the need to justify it, which you shouldn't have to, it's an inmate. But if you feel the need to justify it, you better be carrying that. That better be yours, because if you're passing that to someone else, you're just passing over your authority, and they love that, because the moment you put it on someone else, that authority has now been passed on to someone else, which tells them, haha, you can't carry this position because you can't even tell me no on something that I know I'm not supposed to be doing. So again, and sometimes it doesn't matter how trivial it is. Sometimes it's just a test to see if you're going to stand up and give that unfavorable directive. And again, guys, and when you give that unfavorable directive, there's just a period at the end, no comma, no but, just That's what it is. Why? Because that's what it is. Because I said that's what it is. And that's it. So good dialogue. As always, guys, the show is tipped off. If you haven't, please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. Bell's going to notify you every time I post my video. Stay safe.